What's up, everybody? Welcome to another little new thing we're going to do here. I'm tentatively calling this Crafter Hours. I've already done one stream called Crafter Hours at some point in the past. But this is going to be a little bit different than the Friday streams. We're actually going to do a lot of live coding and building projects in these streams. I don't know exactly how often I'll do the streams yet. My thought is that I'll probably try to do them on Mondays and Wednesdays around this time for probably 2 to 3 hours. But the goal would be to work on some actual projects that are more than just what we can do on a normal Friday stream. Friday streams, we just have a little bit of time to, investigate something, but we never really come to a deeper conclusion than just what's at the surface level in a lot of cases. So, what I really would like to do here is, focus on building real things, and starting with the project we're going to talk about today. But also, working on Geeks configurations, working on lots of other things that are going to be interesting. So. We're just going to take it slow. We're going to see how it goes. I don't really know how it will go yet, but we've done a lot of live coding streams on this channel before with like game jams and whatnot, so I don't expect we're going to have a whole lot of trouble. The other thing today that's a little bit new is that I'm back to a 2-machine streaming setup, which means that, let me get RCIRC up over here. I'm back to a 2-machine streaming setup. Which may or may not be working okay. So let me know at any time in the chat if things seem laggy or spiky or the audio is out of sync or anything like that so that I can try to address it. But it seems to be going okay so far. I don't know. You'll have to tell me. So we're not going to do a whole lot of belaboring the point like we do on the Friday streams where I just sort of ramble for 40 minutes because we actually got to get things done. So we're going to get started in just a second here. Let me just get the chat channel up so that we can see who's talking. I missed everything that came before. I'll just say hello to the folks who are here. Glenna, Jazza, Trev, Ashraz, Big Edie, SCC Copy was here. Thank you, SCC Copy. We shouldn't need your services today. I appreciate you, Ashraz. Let's just, let's just make it a little bit more relaxed stream today for you. Cool, thanks for letting me know this is okay. Oh, did the chat die on my side? What the hell's going on here? Hold on a second. So Emacs in the terminal. Oh, wow. Did that just happen? No. That was really weird. So it completely hanged and I have no idea why. Let me try to just restart Emacs entirely. FG. See, this is the kind of problem I was anticipating. Yeah, I did try Control-G, and then it dropped down to the terminal, as usual. We're off to a great start. Let me see, how bad is my CPU usage right now, I wonder. And also, hello to Fikri, Forrest, Mike, Linelson on the YouTube side. Mike, it is super early for you, dude. 2:30 a.m., that's a little bit too hardcore, in my opinion. All right, I got to restart the music and the chat here. I don't know what happened. That was pretty unexpected. Would be a System Crafter stream without some kind of technical issue, though. All right, so live start chat. Here we go, music again. All right. Just getting back to where we were before. All good still? Got to refresh the chat widget. Okay. There we go. Ashra says, it's system crafters, not productive system users. No, we're definitely not productive system users here. We are constantly struggling. Hey, Andrew, nice to see you. Constantly struggling to get the bare minimum working, as usual. It's just the way it goes on this channel. If you're wondering why I'm drinking a peach Monster today, which is not sponsoring the channel, if Monster wants to sponsor me, I'd be very happy for that. I don't think it's going to happen. But yes, I'm drinking a peach Monster today because they did not have Monster Ultra. They didn't have my usual Boomer juice in stock, so I got to take what I can get here, okay? Hello to Elephant Ergo in the IRC chat. So, another thing I want to say. Oh, I forgot to start recording as well, which is also related to what we're doing here today. So in these streams, I'm actually going to start trying to like cut videos out of them. So sometimes I might explain things in a strange or redundant way because I'm trying to phrase it or frame it in a way that I can edit into a video. There's a trend with programming YouTubers these days where people are primarily making videos out of stream content. And that seems like a good idea for me too, because I'm a lot more comfortable on stream than I am recording videos. As you can tell, if you watch my videos, I'm a little bit stilted and I'm following a script a lot of times, so it doesn't really flow as naturally as it does on the stream. So I'm just gonna try this for a little bit and see if it works. It may not work out very well. People may hate the more unstructured nature of the videos that are coming from streams, but I don't know. I gotta try to shake things up a little bit so I can get more videos out more frequently. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that we do in the Friday streams that people don't see because I don't make them into shorter videos. So I gotta start making an effort on that. That's what I'm gonna be doing here. So just in case you see me sort of, waiting before saying things or structuring things in a certain way, that's the explanation. All right, Elephant Ergo says, David, it's almost midnight. Well, for me, it is 9:44 a.m. So I feel like it's about midnight, though. I'm feeling tired enough that it could be midnight. All right, so let me see. I'm trying to think of what's the best way to jump into this. I want to explain to you what we're going to be working on, but I need to do it in a more structured way. Maybe I'll start off in just a plain old org mode file. So I'll start it here and then I'll probably copy it over somewhere else. Okay, so the project that we're going to start working on is actually going to be a website written in Guile Scheme. At least at first it will be in Guile Scheme. We may experiment with other languages and platforms in the future. But the idea is that I want to try to make a real-world project for this channel to show how you can build something end-to-end using Guile Scheme and potentially other languages that we would like to compare to Guile Scheme at some point in the future. For now, we're just going to focus on Guile Scheme, though. So the concept is I want to actually make a website where people can rate and comment on Emacs packages. I've bought the domain emacsPackages.com. I don't know, this may be a terrible idea. It may be a nightmare for administration and moderation, but I think that it could be something that people might use. Part of the reason for doing that is that I want to build a project that people do use so we can see real world usage patterns and adapt to things like, maybe scaling to higher usage or maybe having to switch between databases or maybe adding a caching layer or doing various different things of that nature. So it's really kind of like a real world demonstration plus learning project plus experimentation and comparison against other platforms. And I think it's going to be really interesting to approach it that way because we'll all get to learn something from it. And maybe there will be actually a website out there that, or at least another website out there that's written in Guile Scheme that people can point to as an example of how one would write a real site in Scheme. So let me just try to put this together. So emacsPackages.com, rate, review, and share example configurations for Emacs packages. So that's sort of the thing that the website will do. But for the overall design, what we're going to try to do is use fibers for HTTP. Excuse me. For concurrent request handling plus more. Use SQLite database at first, but maybe use PostgreSQL, however you pronounce that, later. Consider using other things like Redis, etc., if warranted. Deploy the website using Geeks, maybe on Contabo, because that's the one provider I've seen. I can't remember if Andrew told me about that one or if it was, I think it was Peter that told me about that one, actually. I think I told Andrew about that one. Anyway, point being, Contabo is a European-based provider, and they seem to be pretty cost-efficient. Plus, I've already set up a Geek system on one of them before, one of their VMs before, so I think it will be pretty decent. We might use something else if it comes down to that. Set Q, visual, bell, nil. Is that right? No, that wasn't the right variable name. visible bell. There we go, nil, cool. What else did I want to say on this? Find a way to use Guile Hoot in the on the client side. But it would need to be restricted to some optional component. And the reason why I say that is because while the features necessary for Guile Hoot are available in the latest versions of all major browsers, since there could be people coming there with older versions of browsers because they have older versions of Windows or iOS or Android or whatever, it seems like it's not a good idea to use Guile Hoot for everything just yet, even though I would really like to. I think it'd be really cool to see how to make a full single page web app with Guile Hoot. That's something that we will do at some point on this channel, I think. But at least for now, what we will end up doing is use server-side rendered SXML for pages and templates. Maybe some interactivity via HTMX et al. Because HTMX is kind of a library that makes it easy to plug in some dynamic behavior into plain HTML pages. I mean, you're obviously loading up a JavaScript file and annotating it in a certain way that it can make requests back to the server for fragments of HTML that then get replaced in the page. But that's better for this kind of design, I think, where you have a server-side rendered website that can have some dynamic behavior inserted into it. So I think that's kind of a good starting point for now, at least. Tinker says, I thought you will use Go fibers. No, not Go. We're not going to use Go. Not yet. We might actually at some point in the future. Urawit says, what about GNU Artanis? I'm guessing that must be Cal, because Cal's been talking about Artanis. We will look at Artanis at some point in the future, but I want to start this thing kind of from scratch so that we can see what it takes to actually write a production website using the things that are more or less in the box with some community libraries, but we may be writing some of the stuff ourselves, like maybe route handling or certain aspects of things. So we'll see. Fikri says, HTMX is cool, but I wonder if I disable JavaScript, can I adjust the code to behave like server-side rendering? The site would have to be designed for that, I think. I think it's possible, though. Ashra says, it still feels like these... hold on, I think I'm missing chat here. Whoops. Ashra says, still feels like the best framework is just plain and simple HTML. I mean, it is nice. I haven't looked much into HTMX, but from some comments, it feels like it's already slowing down. You mean the hype is slowing down, or the library itself is slowing down? I mean, it definitely got quite a lot of hype. Primogen was pushing it pretty hard, and some other people were using it. And also the creator of HTMX seems to be a meme lord of some level of fame. So yeah, it did get quite a lot of hype. I think there are certain aspects to it that are a good idea. And I want to try to leverage it where necessary, but we may not need to do that. It may be completely fine just to have a normal server-side rendered website where you just kind of click links to go between pages. Ashra says, yeah, the hype is slowing down, but that's web dev for you. Today's framework or tomorrow's unsupported legacy. Yeah, it happens pretty fast, especially in the web side. There's a lot of churn, a lot of things being abandoned really quickly. So it's the way of the world. Let's see. Kashra says, get Contabo sponsorship. That's another item. I don't know if that's going to work out. I mean, to get some free hosting, that'd be good. Okay. All right, so I've got a repo that I've created already, or at least the page for the repo created on Codeberg. It's codeberg.org/systemcrafters/emacspackages.com. I'm going to drop that into this file right up here. And the notes from the work on the projects, I'm going to find a place to put them on systemcrafters.net, I think. But for the most part, the notes for a given project will be in the repository for the project. But as we have other projects that we're working on, I might have like one place where we have kind of the notes from the various different streams so that we can refer to them in the future and kind of keep me honest to make sure that I'm keeping up with the things that I said I was going to do. Because, you know, sometimes I forget. I get excited about a new project and then my attention gets taken away. Hey, Minas Mazar. Rawit says, the constant churn in JavaScript circles is probably its worst aspect. Yes. Ashra says, it's the circle of hype. Yeah, it does consume everything. It consumes everything. Sponsor me, Monster. You give the best heart palpitations. That's not going to get me sponsored. Okay. So, like I said, we're going to use Geeks for this. We're going to get started in a second, trying to set up a basic project. I need to also push some stuff to the repository, so we'll try to get things cooking as fast as possible. I think that getting started with fibers is not very hard. I might actually want to try and produce a short video about fibers out of what we do here today. So I'm going to try to be very careful about how I get into that so that I can do a decent job of explaining it in a way that could be a standalone video. So we'll try to get that going in a minute. Like, I'm still figuring all this out. I'm sorry if it's a little bit awkward today, but you know, since I'm very open with you and we're just here having fun, hopefully you'll just come along for the ride and we'll have a good time. All right, let me see if I can get this going here. I'm gonna pop open into eShell for a second and then I'll go to my projects folder and sites, and then I'm gonna clone down this repository. It's not gonna have anything in it. See you, Ashraz. Appreciate you being here. All right, so git clone, it's gonna be an empty repo, that's for sure. Ashraz says, we use some kind of auto commit push so we can look at the code base live. I really should do that. I might need to turn that on. I had been thinking I need to do some very frequent commits because it would be nice for me to be able to link to specific points in time of what we've been doing. So yeah, thanks for the reminder on that. I might have to, but still, like, auto commits are gross. So everybody, please, your job as a viewer is to remind me to make commits. I need to be making small commits often, okay? Please do that. And then you will get to see me using VC mode because I've been using VC mode for everything recently. Okay, so we're in the emacsPackages.com repository. So projects, no, I got to fix my completions. Now you're also going to see me fighting with Emacs while I work on things, which is great, I think, because it just shows you the real world experience of fumbling around in Emacs the whole day. Okay, so we got emacsPackages.com. We're going to start off with a little README. That's not going to have much. README.org. Let's see, title, emacsPackages.com. And then I probably should just put in the stuff that I was writing in this project here. So let's just drop that in. License. So for the license on this, I'm not sure. I mean, part of what I'm thinking is that it could be AGPL, because why not? But at the same time, I don't want people to feel like they can't like copy and paste code to put into their own projects, because I don't really have a reason to stop anybody from using the code here. I mean, sure, somebody else could just take the code and make their own competing website, but I don't really care that much. It's not that important to me. I'm not trying to make money off this website. It's just really something to put out there that might be useful to the community, and also a good project to work on, and something that would be fun to look at the code for. So I'm thinking it might be one of the other licenses. Anybody got suggestions for permissive licenses? It could be BSD2, BSD3, MIT, things of that nature. I'm not sure like which is the best one. Rawit says, I thought Codeberg didn't have an org renderer. That's SourceHut. SourceHut does not have an org renderer. Codeberg has one that works pretty well, actually. But strangely, it's written in Go. Rawit says, use the System Crafter's commercial license. Well, we're going to have to write that one first, because I don't have that. Okay. Oh, and I should be writing down timestamps for when I start doing certain things. So I need to have a little notepad for that somewhere here on the side. Timestamps. Project start. What time was that? 13 minutes. Hey, Roberto. Yeah, this is going to be a pain, but we'll figure it out. I mean, it's just a matter of, getting all the kinks worked out of the workflow and moving right along. I also don't really expect people to watch the VODs for these streams. I'm not going to make this like a fully engaging VOD experience because most people don't watch the VODs already. And if I'm cranking out, 2 to 3 hour streams per week, people are not going to be able to keep up with that. So the idea is that, people should watch the videos that come out of the streams, and they can watch the VODs if they want to, but I really don't think that's going to be the case in the end. So let's just try to focus on making good videos out of this stuff, I think. Yes, Fikri knows about this because Fikri contributed a fix to the org exporter that Codeberg uses. All right, so license, let's just assume it's MIT or similar for now. Is that specific enough? Is that gonna work? Is that legally binding? I don't know. All right, so let's see. We're gonna use Geeks for this. So we don't have anything for that yet. I'll start with a manifest. Goodness, I'm very sorry. I'll start with a manifest.scm file so that we can pull in some packages for this. So specifications to, manifest? Is that the right one? List, Guile. I'm gonna have to remember which are which here. So geeks, packages by name. Takes forever. Guile, fibers, okay. I don't need Guile next, I don't think. I'm not even sure if Guile next is needed for Hoot anymore, but I think we're gonna have Guile, which is 309. So we'll just use Guile for now, Guile fibers. And I think that's kind of it. I don't think I need anything else for this. And I can try to use metax compile. And then geeks shell -m manifest.scm, and then Guile --help, just to see if it works. So we're just gonna try to pull it in. Okay, so it did work. So now, let's see. I'll go back into Dired. Whoops, go back into Dired. I'll make a source folder. I need to figure out the right pattern for this. I think there is an actual pattern people use for Guile-based applications for having like a source and test folder. Guile Hull, I think, is an app or a project that people use for that. I think I've covered it on stream before, but I'm obviously not using it here. So we might have to improvise a little bit and then maybe go back and fix things. And I'm totally fine with doing that. Like just sort of bumbling around and getting things working is probably good enough. So let's just try it that way and then see if things work out. And then we'll change it over time as necessary. So source/main.scm. All right, so we got that. And oh, I actually created the folder. It's not what I wanted to do. We're gonna delete that and we're gonna create a file, main.scm. There we go. Okay, cool. So let's talk about fibers, Guile fibers. Also, I'll check the chat really quick before I get started with that. I need to do a better job of keeping an eye on it. Elephant Ergo says, I'll have to ask my lawyer for him, but I think the or something should keep you safe. I hope so. Ashra says, start an org timer when you start the stream, then you can use the org timer item thingy. Yes. That's a good idea, actually. Great idea. I think I need to have some workflow in Emacs to use for this whole setup. Trev says, I like fibers. Fibers is cool. I haven't really used it a whole lot. So this is going to be a good opportunity for me to try it out. Okay, so for today's project, we're going to try to use a library called Fibers for Guile Scheme. The project says this is a concurrent ML-like concurrency for Guile. Okay, makes sense. So the example here is basically, okay, let me step back for a second. It says Fibers is a facility that provides Go-like concurrency for Guile Scheme in the tradition of concurrent ML. I think the way to translate this is that Fibers leverages the continuations functionality of Scheme. I think more than likely it's delimited continuations to make it so that you can have concurrent threads of execution. But concurrent does not mean parallel. It just means that you can have code that looks like it is synchronous, is written in a synchronous fashion, where you just sort of have an imperative series of procedures that you're executing. And then the code just operates as you would sort of mentally expect it to. Like your mental model of the code is that more or less that it's synchronous. However, under the covers, things actually can be interleaved, or the code that you're executing can be interleaved with other code. And usually the way that the system will decide which code is running at any given moment is that the code that you start executing, when it does something that would cause the code to need to wait on a response, like let's say reading something from a file, or reading something from a network socket, anything of that nature, even like waiting on a timer or something like that, it will pause that line of execution, that sort of quote unquote thread of execution, because it's not really a thread, and then it will let another concurrent process start executing. And then once that concurrent process hits a point where it needs to wait for something, then it goes on to the next one or cycles back to the first one. It's basically just a way for you to have multiple things happening in your program at the same time, even though they may not be executing in parallel like separate operating system threads. So the point of this is to make it so that the code that you write is actually a bit easier for you to write and understand, because you don't have to be worrying about things like callbacks or any kind of special asynchronous like syntax, which I think Fibers does have some asynchronous like syntax, but you can avoid it in some cases. Or at least I think you can. So it's interesting from that perspective. Also, using a concurrent style, or at least a event style model under the covers for something like a web server, makes your web server a bit more efficient with handling requests, because it doesn't have to finish waiting on a single request coming into your web server to complete before it can move on to processing another request. So you can kind of do things not in parallel per se, but at least concurrently. You can concurrently deal with a number of requests at the same time, whereas without that, you would have to either deal with requests in a serial way, where you can only do one full request at a time, even if it has to hit the disk or hit a database or network or something, and then move on to the next one. So this is why Node.js got really popular, because Node.js has an event-based model, or event-based I/O, I suppose you could say, where whenever it reaches out to the file system or to the network socket, it gets like an event whenever there's data or something happening where it needs to wake up and start handling it. So Node.js in its core is able to do this kind of concurrent processing, but the programming model is not so great, because you end up with what they call callback hell, or you have to deal with async await, which is a special syntax which gives you something that looks like synchronous code, but you kind of have to be thinking in terms of async await and understand how that works for you to use it effectively. So Fibers in this case gives us this kind of capability in Guile Scheme, and I think it gives a few different approaches for you to be able to write code concurrently in Guile Scheme using the power of continuations. So a pasteable introduction to using Fibers. This is a little example here where they're using something that's like Go's channels. Fibers has its own channel concept. So we're defining a server and a client, and then we're calling run Fibers. So anytime that you want to start using Fibers in your application, I believe you have to wrap it in this run Fibers procedure call with a thunk, or a lambda that takes no arguments. It's basically just a way for a particular kind of execution environment to be established by run Fibers, and then that lambda to be executed inside of it. Effectively, this lambda is the first thing scheduled on that work queue for Fibers, and then inside of that, it creates two channels, one for the client, one for the server, and then it spawns yet another Fiber for the server, where the server can then start writing out messages, and then it tells the client procedure to go ahead and start reading messages. So we've got a different concurrent line of execution here for the server, because we're spawning a Fiber for that. And then is this readable? I'm sorry. And then the client also will continue in the original Fiber that got spawned by run Fibers to then read messages or write messages to and from the server. So In this case, the client is using a for each procedure to loop over the two items in this list here, ping, exclamation point, and sup, which are symbols. And then for each of those, it's passing them into this Lambda procedure where it's calling put message, which comes from Fibers. It puts it into the out channel, the particular message. And then this PK, I believe, is like a pretty print. So this is nothing special, I think. It's printing out that it received an event, and then it uses get message. So as you can see, put message and get message in this case are interacting with another concurrent fiber in the application, but you're not doing anything explicitly like asynchronous here. There's no callback. There's no async get message or anything like that. It's just get message, put message, and this in theory looks like it does block execution until put message is complete. So you're putting a message on this out channel. You're sending message, the variable or the binding MSG, whatever's in there, to this out channel, and it's waiting for that to finish before moving on to the next thing, which is reading that message that comes back, get message. So it looks synchronous, but actually it's not under the covers. It actually is doing this sort of concurrent processing. On the server side, we are defining a recursive loop because we have a named let here called LP, I guess for loop. And then we're using the match expression to read the message that's coming in from the in channel. And then we're matching on what the symbol is, whether it's either ping or sup or some other message that we don't really know what it is. And then in response to those, for ping, we put a message for pong. For sup, we put a message, not much, you. And then for message, we write back saying, what? What is this? So point being, you have a very simple concurrent client server running in the same application. The code looks synchronous. It should be blocking. These two pieces of code should not be able to communicate with each other without Fibers because one is going to block waiting for the other to complete, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a good little basic example to show how Fibers can be used in an application. Now, for our purposes, we actually need to use Fibers to drive an HTTP server, and there is a library in Fibers for doing just that. You can actually look at the manual, I think, if I can pull up the link for that. Let's see, homepage. All right, the manual is right here on this wiki, it seems. So let's see, pitfalls. We should read that at some point. So there's an HTTP server, concurrent web server. All right. So Fibers includes a backend for Guile's built-in web server that uses non-blocking Fibers to read requests and write responses. Fibers also includes a standalone web server that uses Guile's HTTP facilities, but not its web server framework. That's interesting. To run a web server that serves each client from Fibers, specify the Fibers backend when running your web server. So if you don't know, Guile does have a built-in web server and both web server and web client libraries. And they work pretty well. I've used them a few different times. In fact, the stream chat that you see popping up here somewhere, whenever it does pop up, that's actually a Guile web server running on a local process that is connecting to IRC and getting the messages from the System Crackers Live IRC channel. And then OBS has a browser that's polling that HTTP server to get the HTML to load up on that page, basically. So yes, it's very simple to write a basic web server, HTTP server in Guile with the existing libraries, but then Fibers seems to replace some of the core mechanics of that to make it be concurrent. So that's what we're going to try to use for our purposes. So we pull in the web server module. We define a normal handler for this, which is just the plain old handler that you would see for any Guile web server handler procedure. And then we use run server, which I believe is, run server, which comes from web server, but we give it this Fibers symbol, which seems to be, they must be hooking in somehow to do that, because obviously we're not pulling in any Fibers libraries for that to happen, which seems weird. Seems like it shouldn't just sort of happen by default, but okay, maybe that's fine. Let me pull up the chat on my other screen here so I can see, because I'm probably missing things. Okay. Let's just check the chat really quick. Thank you, Alternate Ved. Let's see, System Crafters live. Yes, cool. And welcome to Jake. All right, so we can just try to get started with this. I think that the best thing to do is just to jump in and see if we can get a basic web server running in a Guile program, and then move on from there. So to run a web server that serves clients from each blah, 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 whatever, I'm going to copy this use modules into our main file. I'm going to move the stuff over a little bit. And then we can go ahead and try to run this again in the compilation. So in meta compile, we're going to say guile source/main.scm. And it seems to be running. So I should be able to go to, well, I'm not sure what the default port is. Is it 8,000? Localhost 8,000? 80? Can't be 80, right? So I'm not sure what the default port is. Let me see what the web server says. Run server. Oh, 8080. Okay, so that would be the third choice, or fourth choice, let's say. Secure connection failed. Oh, I don't know why I pulled HTTPS. There we go. Hello world. So this actually is running from within fibers. While reading request, bad request line. That's pretty interesting that it. I know why I did that though. It's pretty interesting that it spit out so many codes like this. I haven't gotten the correct Xterm stuff set up in my new Emacs config just yet. All right, so we're gonna have to deal with a little bit of nasty output. So I think the reason why it's saying bad request is because also the browser is trying to send a request for the favicon.ico or whatever. So because of that, it's getting a request that it doesn't know how to handle. I'm guessing though, is that right? Bad request line. I mean, we can't even read that. So maybe I just have to go into a terminal and run it so we can see what the output is, because this is completely illegible. We're gonna go back here. Come on. Kill compilation buffer. Oh, actually, before I do that, let me copy my compile line, because I want to use that. Go to ANSI term. Okay, so it's running again. Let's just hit that. Oh, now it doesn't complain? That's fun. Let me make sure that it's running the right one. Guile. Are there two of them? So that's 16.761. Yeah, and 16.775. I don't know why it's still running. Oh, they're two different things. Okay, no problem. Trev says, what did he say? Nice, we're done. Let's react to something now. Yeah, later. Alternate Vet will be happy to know that I'll probably have to start doing some React content. I mean, really, realistically, if I'm going to be partaking in the game of programming YouTubership, then I'm going to have to be doing some React content at some point, even though I keep saying no. So look out for that. Trev says, foreshadowing, the new Emacs config will be causing all the issues now instead of geeks. That is possible. That is possible. Thieker says, next game jam, would you take a look at Open Goal? I don't know. Is that the thing that they used for Naughty Dog? Is Goal the thing for Naughty Dog, the game development company? I don't know if I want to try something completely different than what I'm used to. Probably need to look at Guile Hoot again. Put Subway Surface on in the background while working on code. What is that? All right, so we've got the basic server running. It says hello world. Cool. That's using fibers. That was really easy. Let's go back to the docs real quick and just see what else it has to say about running a server. Performance seems to be about 60% of the standard web server backend implementation shipped with Guile, though it's not as battle hardened. Okay. Uses channels to invert the inversion of control imposed on the backend by the web server framework. Okay, great. Let's see. So it's giving us an example of some code that is used in their backend. We don't need to know about that. From the perspective of the client loop fiber, have requests as a normal function. All right, we don't really need to know that either. It's just more like a technical detail in case you're interested in how it's all implemented. Guile's web server framework, single threads. Okay, Guile's web server framework, single threads, all web request handling. The handler procedure can be passed a number of additional state arguments and is expected to return a corresponding number of additional values. Sometimes it's what you want, but it does limit concurrency. Let's see. For this reason, Fibers includes a simple standalone web server that uses Guile's HTTP facilities, but not its web server framework. To run a standalone web server, use the Fibers web server module. And it seems to be basically the same API, but just not using the web server backend. Enables more parallelism than using the standard web server backend, as the handlers can run in parallel when you have multiple cores. Single core performance of the standalone server is slightly better. Single core performance of the standalone server is slightly better than the web server backend, unlike the backend scales with the number of cores available. So why even use the normal web server backend? Seems like you would want to use this instead. So how about I just change my code to use that? I don't know what I might be missing out on by doing this, but I think that it's going to be more advantageous to do things the way that Fibers is saying is more efficient, especially if we want to scale to multiple cores. That only really matters if you have a VM that you're deploying the application to that has multiple cores, but still worth having. So let me just go ahead and kill this process and then start it up again and then go back and reload our page, and we still seem to be getting a hello world. I also want to just write something out here. So format got a request, and I need to remember the right syntax for getting things out of the request, because every time I write a Guile web app, I have to relearn all this stuff, which is fine. I mean, when you don't do something often enough, that's what happens. All right, got a request. So we can see that the requests are still coming through, which is good. So now we're using the special version that is provided by Fibers and not the built-in web framework. However, the API seems to be the same, and it does use a lot of the same stuff. I think all of the request objects and things of that nature are, and the API of how the handlers get called is the same as what you would use for the web framework. That's my understanding, at least. Okay, so anything else that we need to see here? Looks like that's basically it for the docs. I mean, there's other things we will need to know at some point using this, but for now, I think we're cool. So there's some REPL commands we can use for Fibers as well, which is kind of nice. Let's see, what else? I saw something for timers, operations, first class abstractions for asynchronous events. Some of this stuff seems pretty useful. We might have to use it at some point in the future, or at least try it out. But for now, we have the ability to do concurrent request handling. So that's the basics of Fiber. We really don't need to go into more detail about that right now. I mean, you can just kind of see that it does give us the ability to have a concurrent web server in Guile's scheme if that's something that you want. I think if we were to try to extend this out to a real example that uses Fibers for more than just the concurrent request handling, probably what we would have is channels that you can use to communicate between different components of the back end. So maybe if you have like a worker queue or something that's doing other things like executing programs to generate thumbnails or scale down thumbnails, things of that nature, or maybe you're calling out to some other service that does that, then you could sort of use a channel to push a job onto some job queue asynchronously so that the request itself doesn't have to wait for it to be acknowledged or anything. You just sort of pass a message to a channel, and then the other component is listening and takes that. That might be overkill. I don't really know. But anything that does touch the file system or a network socket, those things definitely you want to have Fibers for. And also like background timers inside of the application. Sometimes you want to have like a scheduled thing that happens inside the server. Maybe like flushing out some things that are in memory to the database, or like refreshing a cache or other things like that, which, to be completely honest with you, like I have not written so many web backends, at least modern sites, that I'm kind of behind the times when it comes to what things people need to do for this. But that's part of the reason I want to work on this project and other projects like it, so that I can get caught up on what people typically do when writing production web applications. So using Fibers does give us a little bit of a leg up on doing more advanced things in the backend that we might need to do that requires some kind of asynchronous behavior or concurrency. So that's basically it for Fibers. We're going to be using Fibers in the emacsPackages.com project. So if you're interested to learn more about Fibers, check out the videos that we'll be doing from the streams working on that project. Various different points we'll be using Fibers for, different features we'll be implementing. And then we'll definitely talk more about what we're learning over time, especially if we come up with any interesting use cases that really sort of show the value of using Fibers in your project. So hopefully that was useful for you, and let me know in the comments what you think about that. See how I did that there? Had to just end a video, sort of. But that's a video, I guess. We'll see if it's any good. I'm curious to see if anybody cares. Feeker says, it's Lisp though. Yes, OpenGoal is definitely Lisp. Alternate Vet says, are we doing React content now? I mean, to some degree we will be. Not in the way that most people do it, but there's something to be said for participating in a conversation that's happening across the social media sphere. Like if there's some topic that people are talking about, then sometimes it does make sense to at least chime in on it, because then you end up in the recommendation feeds of other channels who are also talking about that thing, and it can be good for channel growth. Which, let's face it, if I'm doing this as a full-time avocation, I need to be thinking in terms of growing the channel and not just sitting around and saying, yeah, I'm not going to do that stuff. So let's just say I'll do it in the most authentic and non-scummy way possible. And I'm also always interested to hear what people think about how I can do things better, or just, honest feedback on how things are going, and whether things don't feel right, because I do care as I drink my peach monster. So now that we've got a basic Fibers-based web server running, pretty easy, pretty straightforward, we need to think about what it is that we need for the actual website. So let's get back to thinking about design. I'm going to look at the readme.org file here. So that's not really design. What would we say this is? It's not design so much. The real design would be, let's just say, requirements. I don't know. And design. Let's talk high level about what this site's supposed to do. So we want to show a listing of known Emacs packages across ELPA, non-GNU ELPA, and MELPA, including stable. Possibly even packages that are only available on Git repositories using package install VC. Is that right? Package VC install? So why do we want to do this? Well, I mean, you can go to the individual sites and look for packages, but what I end up doing myself is I want to look for a particular package and see which repo it's in. And I have to go to ELPA first. Normally I won't find it there because many things aren't there. Then I'll have to go to non-GNU ELPA to their own website separately and search there. And then I'll have to go to MELPA. Now, obviously I could do all this inside of Emacs. Instead of screwing around with websites and browsers, I could go into Emacs and add all those repositories into Emacs and then search for them there. That's totally fine. But if a person wants to do some research on Emacs packages, it would be nice if there was one website that could list all of them. So we definitely want to show a listing of known Emacs packages across Melpa, Elpa, and Git repositories. We also want to keep an up-to-date index of all these packages, including versions if possible. I also want to say here, also mention whether the package is in Geeks 2 and what version. Cal says Elpa, Melpa, Umpa, and Lumpa. Yeah, we do need some other repositories that have strange names. Hey to Dominic. All right, so we got that. Keep an updated index. Now, provide a way to for community members to share example configuration snippets from their configuration files. Maybe automatically. And when I say that, what I mean is it would be really cool if you could share your dot files or your Emacs configuration repo on this website. And maybe if it can figure out which packages you're already using, it can add you to the list of users of a particular package. And then let's say if someone goes to look at Vertigo on this website, you would be able to show all the repositories of people who are using Vertigo and then show their Vertigo configuration in the page. Now, doing this automatically is probably not going to be very easy. So it might be something where someone would go and intentionally post their configuration there and give a link to a specific commit on GitHub or Codeberg or whatever, so that it could be embedded into the page and then it could be done that way. So we may have to change that over time. But I kind of feel like it's an interesting approach for centralizing the set of examples for given packages. Also, obviously, we want to provide a way to have like sort of comments or tips for packages. Maybe ratings. I mean, ratings are risky, all right? You don't want to really upset people by allowing ratings. I'm not exactly sure what the right approach is for that. You know, maybe ratings is the wrong thing to do. Maybe it should be more like, I use this. However many people use a package sort of increases its ranking, because usage sort of indicates the value of something. So if we see that someone has Vertigo in their configuration, then maybe it increases the ranking of Vertigo. Or maybe if a person sort of self-attests that they use Vertigo in their configuration, then that gets counted as part of the count for Vertigo. So because I don't want things to turn into like a rating brigade kind of situation that requires moderation, maybe it's more of just like you either use it or you don't. And it's not a positive or negative score. It's just an aggregate count of people who use a particular package. Does that make sense? Does that sound fair? Does it sound like something that would not upset people, that, you know, nobody could really call issue with? Because I don't want to have arguments spawning on the website. Maybe even allowing comments is probably bad enough. So maybe we should not allow comments until later either. So tips for packages are good, so long as we're not engaging in any tomfoolery on the website. So how about this? User supplied tips about packages. A usage count for packages to show relative popularity. Exactly, Cal. Every use package blah and init.el is a +1 for blah. If we can reliably detect that, which, you know, since this is Lisp, if we know, well, doing it automatically could be difficult for a number of reasons. So we may be able to provide suggestions on what people use based on a cursory scan of their configuration files. but it may still require some manual intervention. So we'll see. I mean, we will have to figure out the right approach for that. User count for packages show relative popularity, different than a raw install count. You definitely get an install count on Melpa, which is useful also, but that shows every time somebody has installed it, even if they're like reinstalling their Emacs configuration. So you don't really get a good sense of like how many people are using it. You only get the sense of how many people are downloading it at any given point in time. Okay, so the reason why we're going through this list is so that we can think about what the overall structure of the site needs to be, the structure of the database, other functionality that will be needed. So let's just think about like conceptual model. So there would be a package. So you would have things like name, version, URL, user count, and then there would need to be like a foreign key to like a tips or something like that, like for each user to have tips. So package tips. So sort of like comments on a package, but only for sharing tips, not for complaining. Because who wants complaining? And then that would need to have like a user who posted it, the package it relates to, tip content. That's about it, I think. We also need users. So name, configuration, repos. So you might have multiple, so we need to make sure that we can support multiple. I mean, one at first, obviously, but maybe more in the future. Profile text, let's say. And also, we might need to use a foreign key to a table of packages that you use. We also need an Emacs front end. We'll let Glenneth write that. Profile text. Yep. And then these all need IDs too, sort of. I guess the name could be an ID so long as it's unique, but maybe we need an ID sort of in the back end. And then user packages. User package table, which is user ID, package ID. Then user tip table, which is user ID, tip ID. I know this is scintillating. You know, this is extremely interesting. Where we're just going through sort of database design / conceptual model, but these things are kind of needed, so we're just going to do it that way. And then so you have user package table, user tip table. Do we need package tip table, or am I overthinking that? I'll just go ahead and say it's been a while since I've done any database work for real, because I always try to avoid using databases. Don't ask me why. I'm just so bored of trying to deal with databases. I just try to avoid them. So we're going to actually use a database in this case. We're going to use SQLite at first. We might do something different later. And we're just trying to think through what we'll need in a database. So I might be doing things wrong. You'll have to remind me if there's better ways to do things. Glenna says, what did I miss? We are signing you up to write the Emacs front end for this website. Trev says, is this what it's like to work at Microsoft? I don't know. What do you mean? Like writing basic specifications for functionality? Maybe. I mean, generally speaking, it's a good thing to do, I think, if you're trying to build something new. Let's just leave that as it is for now. All right, so we got packages, we got users, we got tips. Was there anything else? I mean, some of the things we were talking about before about doing concurrent processing using fibers, some of that could be done using fibers in the backend, because we're going to have to periodically do scans of people's configuration repos if we do it automatically. Also, we're going to have to do periodic scans of the package repository sites. to get the latest package details. So that's something that can be done on the back end at first on the same server, but later it may have to be on a different server because you don't really want to be gumming up the request handling capabilities of the main server for the user side of things while all this sort of background processing is going on. So that will be part of the work we do to scale everything in the future. Peter says, what if I want to use PostgreSQL, then switch to SQLite, vice versa? Well, going from Postgres to SQLite might be harder than going from SQLite to Postgres. I'm not 100% certain about that, but and I also don't know if they are fully equivalent in terms of query syntax, in terms of types on the columns, that kind of thing. So not 100% certain, but I think starting with SQLite first is a good strategy because it's easier. You don't have to have a separate process that you need to manage. It's just a file on the file system, and it's easy to back up. So that's why I would prefer to stick with something simple at first, and then gradually move up to PostgreSQL, if it's actually necessary. So let me actually write that down as possibly something I can put into a short. Sorry, content creation. Where are we in the stream? This is 56 minutes in, so 55. Yeah, I forgot to put in where I talk about fibers too. So if I talk about okay, then you'll implement DAO or repository pattern. Well, I'm not going to try to do any kind of funky backend stuff because I like to keep things simple. I don't add abstraction unless it's absolutely necessary, because abstractions add complications. Sometimes the complications are necessary because you're trying to accomplish a certain goal. But if you don't need the complication, if it doesn't provide you any actual value, then it's better just to write the code directly. And if you're smart about the way that you write code directly, it's more or less easy to inject abstractions into the code later, because you're using functions that take all the things that they need as parameters. You're not gumming up the works with a lot of leaky abstractions that you've already inserted. It's easy to sort of take an old component that's simple and replace it with a new component that is a bit more complex. So that's sort of the strategy that I try to follow whenever I'm doing projects. I just go with the most straightforward thing possible, but I try to do it in a sensible way that gives me options for the future. So I don't want to add big abstractions, but I do want to add some level of flexibility so that I'm not stuck with a specific approach too strongly in the future. And I'm sure those of you who have been programming for a while probably also follow this kind of mentality, because you've been burned many times by having to do full rewrites of something because you went too far down a path of over-engineering, or being sloppy, and then your code just kind of everything's kind of a big ball of spaghetti, everything's connected to everything, and you can't really untangle it without rewriting it again. So it's more just about being sensible, I think. Okay, so that's pretty good, I think, for a basic design. So then let's think about what we need as far as the route model. And I don't know who will find this video interesting, but I'm gonna try to put it on the channel and see what happens. I think what I'll do is make a video out of us discussing the project and going through this whole process and just see what people say. I don't know, maybe they'll have comments. Maybe they'll tell me I'm doing things wrong. Maybe there's better ways to do it, and that's great, because actually, part of the value to me of doing live streams like this is getting feedback from people and or ideas even, because I don't know everything. I might sound confident, but I don't know everything. That's for sure. I'd say I know almost nothing, enough to get myself into trouble. All right, so look, before I get into the next part of this, I'm going to take a 2-minute break. I'll be right back. So stick around. I'll be back in just a second. The sponsored Monster Energy break. Yes. Fikri says, shit talking other programming languages or reacting to blog posts will increase the exposure, I guess. Well, yeah, I don't really want to do a bunch of shit talking anything, really. But yeah, there might be some partially spicy takes. Reacting to blog posts will increase the exposure. Yeah, reacting to conversations. That's really the point, is that people are having a conversation about a given idea at any given moment. And that's sort of what we would be targeting, is trying to... Let me get these buffers out of the way. Trying to just, engage with the conversation. We'll see how well that works. Elephant Ergo says, we need a short of, I know almost nothing, enough to get myself into trouble. It takes a sip of peach monster. Yeah. I think I will get into trouble for that. All right. So I think the first thing to do would be to talk about, let me get this thing out of the screen. So what do we want to accomplish first? In my mind, getting something visible working as soon as possible would be good. Having some kind of front end to the website working would be fun. And it would be fun also from the perspective we'll get to use SXML to generate the HTML for the site, which is always fun because it's pretty easy to use, very easy to inject code into it. SXML is basically just using scheme backquoting as a templating language for your website. So it's pretty effective for putting a website together quickly without having to use any other external libraries. And since Guile already has a nice library for SXML built in, it's not very hard to do that. So maybe what we'll do is try to work on a little bit of a front end. I'm not going to try to make it look pretty. It's just going to be the basic, showing the information, having some links, etc., just to get the, let's just say, a basic prototype of the website put together. We'll have to deal with like deploying it somewhere soon. I would like to start deploying it as soon as possible. We may need to have like a staging site in the beginning and not really have the full site up yet, because this thing is not going to be usable by the public for a little while, but we want to have it at least up so that someone can go look at it after I've been working on it. So we'll think about that in a week or two, maybe. Let's just get some basic things going first, but it could even be next week if I decide that I'm getting a little itchy to get something out there, because part of the point here is to build something that's real and somebody can go look at, and then look at the code for it and learn something. So I think I will prioritize, getting things out there as fast as possible. Is that what they call agile programming? Just, shoving things in people's face and be like, here, there's more stuff. Feaker says, I have an extra challenge for you. Utilize existing HTML semantic as much as possible for building the UI. I mean, that's kind of, it's good in some ways. It's also challenging. I don't really know, like, what is the value? What is the value of the HTML semantic stuff? Is it that a browser can pick up on the specific types of tags? Like there's like an article tag and section tags and things like that. Is it so that a browser can pick up on that and do something special with them? Because I think most websites don't actually want you to do that because they want to throw up some kind of paywall or some other kinds of stuff to keep you from actually using the website effectively. Now that's obviously not the case for us because we're not going to try to like monetize this site or do anything scammy with it. But what is really the purpose of semantic HTML, elements and whatnot if, most people would prefer to just ignore them and not make websites that leverage them? Probably you can tell me. Let's see. All right. So yeah, the goal will be to get something really basic up and running as a backend that generates a front end. So this will also require us to have basic route handling, but that's pretty easy, I think. So let's just start specking out some stuff here in the comments of the code. So basic URL handling. So let's just say maybe, the root URL, which gives us the, man, I'm really doing a bad job of typing today, aren't I? Packages. So root URL that gives us the main page, the packages list, what am I doing? The packages list with an ID. And the ID might be the package name to some degree, but that may be difficult to do. Packages, ID, like tips. I don't know, it's not really needed, but it is needed for a web API. So let's consider the possibility that we need to do that. So we're going to use kind of a RESTful style API strategy. And we might use a sort of an hypermedia style strategy here as well, meaning that there will not be a separate API from the front end itself. It will be on the same endpoints. So depending on how you ask for a page or what content type you use for asking for a page, it will dictate what you get back. So for instance, if you ask for packages/ID and you ask for HTML, you'll get back the HTML version of the page that's renderable in a browser. But if you ask for application JSON, you'll get back the JSON as if it was an API request. So that's sort of the idea. But I don't really intend for this to be used as an API. And if people start abusing that, we'll have to rethink it. But anyway, that's what I'm thinking for now, at least. It makes it pretty straightforward from an implementation standpoint, I think. So we need basic URL handling. We need basic content type handling. I feel like I saw somebody mention something about that. Was it Cal that mentioned that? That there was something for that. Maybe it was Artanis that has that. What else do we need? Basic page templatization, which is not really super hard to do because of SXML. So to start with, define index. Yes, Elephant Ergo is right. It will also make the Emacs client easier to write. If we were to make it like this, with the web page endpoints also functioning as API endpoints, it's much easier to write the Emacs client. So that's a really good point, actually. So index request body. This is what we're going to do for the index page. So let's see, display index page. This is going to be really janky at first, so forgive me for doing something really terrible. Values. In fact, let's just copy that. There's probably a better way to do this in the end. Trev says, I agree, best to start with all the routes and drill down. Yeah, I definitely want to start just sort of hacking out all of the routes. So is it text HTML? HTML content type. Text HTML. Okay. So text HTML, we're going to say text hello HTML here as well. In fact, we don't really need that now. We can use match. So what was the surfy for that? I think we saw it show up in one of these examples. ICE9 match. ICE9 match. So we want match expressions to do this. So let's see. Match on the URL. I think there's a request URL. I really need to be using a REPL for this too. So let me just pull up a little geyser REPL for this. It won't be 100% perfect, but it'll be fine. So use web server. No. Web request. And then request URI. Okay, cool. So we got request URI. We're going to match on request URI on request. And then if it's slash, we really need to do some sanitization on this. This is not going to be the right way to do this. So, just understand that. I'll return index. And I'm actually going to invoke the function directly. So let handler. This is not the best way to do this. Like I said, we're starting super simple, and then we're eventually going to expand out to make something a bit more sensible. So let's see. I know I'm not getting the syntax right either, so give me a moment here. So packages. This is not good, okay? When handler, or no, let's say if handler. Then we're going to execute the handler with the request and the body. Otherwise, we're going to return a 404. I think there's a status code, so web server. There is a way to do this. I always have to look it up, though. Oh, wait, hold on. There's web examples. I think that's the one we want to. Let's see. Status. There's a little response helper. Status 100. Build response. That must come with response. There must be a way to do that without having to call build response, though, right? Let's look at the server code. Server. Handlers should return two values, the response as a response record and the response body as a byte vector. So the user provider handler procedure is called, and that's what this is, the handler. But we're actually returning values, which is different. Elements of state are passed to handler as arguments. See ya, elephant ergo. The new state collected from handler's returned values is returned as a list. The response and the response body. Yeah, that is the response body, so that's the second value. And if you don't know what values are in the context of Scheme, the values procedure here gives you the ability to return multiple values from a procedure. I don't know if it's a procedure or a syntax, but the point is that the result value that comes back from this procedure is basically like a tuple where you have a specific number of values that are being returned, and then the procedure that calls this procedure needs to unpack the values from that tuple whenever they use it. It's just a way for a procedure to return more than one value. because usually you just have expressions that return a single value in an expression-oriented language like Scheme. All right. Let's look at responses then, because maybe that's going to give us a better sense. I mean, we were just there, weren't we? Response port. Read response, build response. Constructs an HTTP response object, so I guess we can do that. So we have headers, we have code. So we're going to use build response instead. And that's going to take a code of 404. And headers, I don't know if we really need any headers for that, so maybe we can just leave it at this. I'll just say not found, not found. And we'll give it a shot in a minute and see if it actually works. We're also gonna have to pull in the web response library for this. And now I'm getting a little bit itchy. I need to straighten this up some. Whoop, don't wanna do that. There we go. Okay. Let's pull up our ANSI term again. Okay, so I'm missing something. Check parens on the define here. Cool, that makes sense. So we got values. Yeah, I just forgot to close all this out. So if handler request body, got it. All right, so now let me... Yeah, it didn't complain on packages index yet, which is pretty interesting. I imagine it probably will, but let's see. So slash should be index. Did we get somewhere? All right, unbound variable request URI. I didn't put in web request here either, did I? All right, another problem here. No matching pattern. I wonder what the actual string is. Let's say a request URI request, and then we should be able to tell. Whoops. There we go. Got to request that. Oh, it's actually an actual URI object. Okay, that's the reason why we're not able to match it correctly. So it's a record. I mean, we could actually do the record matching parts of this, but I don't really think we want to do that. I'm going to turn this into a let star. And then I'm going to pull the URI out by, let's see, is there like a URI string? Let's see. Requests, request URI. Build request URI, request absolute, absolute URI. Determine the absolute URI request. We don't want that. Let me pull up the URI docs as well. Universal resource identifiers. Build URI. URI path. Okay, so we just need to use URI path on request URI of request. And then we got URI here. Then I can do the match on that. Okay, so we have to change this to be a let star so that we can use the URI binding in the next binding for handler. We're extracting the URI from the request, which is a record type, and then we need to use URI path to pull the actual path string before we can use it in the match expression here. So let's give that a shot. Whoops, let's see if we go back to the actual page. All right, unbound variable URI path. I forgot to include the URI library. Let's see, that is web URI. That's cool, makes sense. And then we'll go back and start that up again, and then go to our localhost. Okay, hello world, it seems to be returned as HTML. It says index page, cool. So let's try the other thing that's not gonna work, which is go to packages, and then it says unbound variable packages index. Cool, that's fine. So define package index request body. And we don't really even need body, but we're just gonna keep the same API signature because that's what we're looking for. Guile. We're working on a new Guile-based website, which is going to be basically a repository or an index of Emacs packages. So for our package index page, we're going to do a similar thing. We're just going to paste this in. We're going to say package listing. Nothing special. Just going to verify that it works. And it still does not work. Packages index. Okay, so I need to fix that string, the binding name. There we go. We're going to reload the page. Now package listing. We got that up. All right. So now we've got the front end for both of these. What I might actually want to do is break things down even further. So I could string split this. Check this out. String split. I want to string split URI path. I want to string split it on the backslash character. I'm pretty sure that's the right syntax for that. Okay. And then I'm going to change these to be lists. All right. So we got packages. We got index. Package index. And then let's say packages and ID, which would be packages detail. I don't know. We're sort of getting into MVC territory, model view controller territory here. I'm curious to see if this will actually work. So let's just give it a shot here and make this procedure. So packages detail. This is a terrible name because it doesn't sound right, but that's fine. Detail 4. Now we need to change how we're approaching this. It seems a little overkill to do it this way, but it is possible to do this. Lambda request body package ID, or we can even just say ID, okay? And we want to format this. We're going to say format false because we want to just return a string, and then tilde A, and we're going to put the ID in there, and it looks like I screwed up that variable name. Okay, so now we got a Lambda procedure that can be returned here. We're basically wrapping the context with the ID. So we're returning a pre-cooked Lambda with the details of the ID. Let's see if that works. I don't know if it's going to work. Let's find out. All right, so that crashed. Throw to key, match error with args, match, no matching pattern. Oh, okay, so we've got the empty item at first. So what we want to do is pull the cdr of this because we don't want that first part of the string. Because we're using string split. There's two ways to approach this. One is to assume that we're going to take the slash off the front of the string before we split. Or the other is to leave the slash on and then just get rid of the first item, which is always going to be an empty string because the string starts with a slash, so it's going to give us an empty string as the first item. So maybe we'll just pull the cdr here to get only the remaining items and move on with that. So let's try that and see if that works. Still got a crash. No matching pattern for packages. Oh, okay. So I need to get rid of the... I need to check index also, but let's check this. Packages ID. All right, so package listing works. Packages slash 42. Package detail for 42. So both those are working. We got basic route handling now, which is cool. And then we also need to check the index page as well, make sure that still works. That does not work. Okay, so it is an empty string after all. That's fine, no problem. So if I restart the server, then I can go find that works, and then we go back to packages. So that works too. Great, so we actually have a basic route handling structure here, which is pretty straightforward. And I think it will work for us just fine in the short term until we need something a bit more robust. And like I was saying before, it's better to be simple until you really need something more elaborate. We may not ever need something more elaborate, but we're just going to see how things go over time and just do what seems right. Cal says, punctuating your declarations with a swig is an effective rhetorical device. Yes, it definitely makes one seem like they're pontificating well, I guess. All right, questions here. Fikr says, I thought you were going to make something like package router or something. Yeah, definitely. If you were writing something in another language that has this concept of like, composable routers, then sure. We may actually do something like that in the future. We might create a library for that in the future. It might be fun to create a library for creating composable route handlers, let's say, in a functional way. But not for now. Not for now. What does Fiber do again since you're routing the URI manually? I assume it doesn't do routing. No. So Guile's web APIs have no concept of route handling for you. What you do is you start a web server, either with the built-in web server functionality in Guile or with a web server that comes with Fibers, and you give it a procedure. That procedure takes two arguments: the request record type that has all the details about the request that came into the server, and then the body of the request, which is whatever that got sent along with that request. It's up to you to decide what to do with that request. Okay, so it's in your hands to decide how to handle all the routes that might be coming into your server. And then you get to give whatever response you want back. So that's why we're sort of writing our own basic route handler here, just to focus on the pure, simple routes that our application expects to see. Fikr says, how can you match the index when you expect it to match with slash since you split it with slash? Yeah, we just saw that then. It ends up being an empty string, which is fine. I think that kind of makes sense. All right, so now that we've got basic stuff here, we can move on to doing some basic page rendering with SXML. If you don't know about SXML in Guile, there is a Guile SXML library, and we will take a look at some examples of this in a second. So first of all, SXML is basically a way to represent XML as S expressions in Scheme. So as if you see this example here of the typical XML style syntax, we can translate that into an S expression, which is basically a parenthesized syntax, as Scheme and Lisp are. And we have to use a kind of a funny little thing here with this at subsyntax to set attributes on an element. But usually you're just doing nested S expressions to replicate what you would do in XML. And the nice thing is you don't have to have these nasty closing tags because you already have nesting inside of parentheses. So that kind of comes for free. You always have your tags closed correctly, which is good. So we want to look at, I think, reading and writing XML. So we want SXML to XML, which is going to allow us to change an S expression into HTML. So we will use SXML to string for this purpose. In fact, we can get started really easily by doing it here. Let me make sure I pull in the right. Okay, SXML simple. That's all we really need, it seems. So I'm going to say SXML simple here. And then, let's see, in the index handler, I can say SXML to string, H1, hello world. Let's just start with that for now. I'll delete that. All right, so that should be enough to get an H1 on the page. And I'll restart the server and then go back in here and go to our index page. Let me just pull that back. Hello world. So it's still not giving me an H1. Let me see what the actual output looks like. So let me try that again. Interesting that it's doing that. Let me see. Do I do that wrong somewhere else? Nowhere else is hello world being displayed. Oh, I think this has a different D tag and SXML tree into a string does not perform any formatting. Let's just take a look at what the output should be, because I don't know why it's doing it this way. Unless I actually need to do the full HTML body stuff here. Maybe that's why I'm forgetting the rest of the page layout. Well, probably what we'll do is come up with a templating function in a second that will simplify some of this for us. But let's start by trying this, because maybe that's my actual problem. Oops, go back here, reload. Okay, it's still doing the same basic stuff. Let me make sure that I have caching turned off. It shouldn't be caching, but who knows? Disable HTTP cache when toolbox is open. Refresh. Okay, it's still doing the same thing. All right, let's just change this and see what happens. Hello, crafters. Let's also check. Whoops. How many main.scms do we have running around here? None. Okay, so we're running it fresh. That's strange. It says hello, crafters. Let's check the actual output of this, because I don't know why it is showing up like that. So format T output, and we'll just drop that in. It's gonna look terrible. That's fine. Probably does not already handle etag Pickery, because this is really basic backend. Output is hello crafters. So what is it actually doing? SXML to string is stripping off everything else. That makes no sense. Looks like it's time to go into the REPL to figure this out. So Guile REPL, okay. So we're gonna use SXML simple, SXML to string, h1 foo. So it's completely stripping the tags out, which makes absolutely no sense to me. Okay, so let's try wrapping it with something else too, just in case. I don't know. Yeah, it's really stripping everything out, which makes no sense. Yeah, there's SXML to XML, but that requires a port for the output. Oh, yeah. I love that this section is, the overview section is completely empty. Man, this is strange. Let me look at another project I have and see if that gives me some pointers on what I did before. So emacs.d, elpa, livecrafter, chat.scm, SXML to XML. So did I actually have a problem with this where I actually had to use with output to string? Because that would be really stupid. But this is what I'm doing in another project, actually the chat overlay project. I can't believe that I would have to actually do that. But let's see. Do you need a dot between the H1 and the string? No, you don't need that. All right, then we will just have to do it this way. So how about this? Define render page. I think we want define star. So Guile define star because we want keyword parameters. Lambda and star and define star. Okay. It gives us the ability to have keyword parameters, which is kind of nice. So it is key. And then I can say whatever parameters I want. So title. What else? Body. And we'll stick to that for now. And then with output to string, I believe that's a lambda, that's a thunk, right? So let me go back to that other code. It's a thunk that we're using. Yep, it's just regular thunk. And I'll copy this little bit here. So let's just drop that in. For title, I will insert title here. And then that closes off head, and then we have body, and then we're gonna just drop in the body. I could probably just throw that on the same line. And then that is that. So we have a render page procedure, render page. And then we will say title, emaxpackages.com, index, I don't know. Or how about this, index. Main page, body. And the body will just be that the H1 tag. Okay, that should be enough. So let's go back. I feel like I've had this problem before. And it was very strange to me that the procedure did not work as expected. All right, there we go. Now we have an H1. We can look at the inspector and see that we have H1. We also have the head of the page saying main page, or title being main page. So, I mean, we've got basic page templating working here with SXML, with our own little page rendering function. We'll probably rename some of this stuff over time. It's just what, you know, sort of occurred to me as a correct name to start with. But, you know, that's okay. I would like to have a I'd like to have some test data to start with on this, but I'm kind of wonder if I should even bother with an intermediate layer of record types. Because let's say you have a database, like a SQLite database, and you have records, or you have information in that database in various tables. You could either read and write stuff directly to the database without any intermediate layer of objects, which would be pretty straightforward. Might be a little bit messier. Or you could have an intermediate layer of record types that then get translated into the necessary stuff in the database whenever you have to write everything out or read it back. Based on my own principles, that is a layer of abstraction that may not be necessary. So I think I'm probably gonna skip that for now. And then later we will get back to it if we decide that it provides value. The one place where it definitely could provide value is if I'm doing unit tests and I need to have the ability to test behavior of the backend without having to deal with a database. So that is one way that it would really be useful, is having my own record types so that I don't have to deal with a database just to run unit tests. So certainly is something we would want to do. One other advantage of having record types right now would be that I can just create the record types for the different parts of the model and then write all the sort of initial code against those record types and then eventually add a database layer to it. So I don't know, maybe there is value to going ahead and just adding some record types so that we can just make some progress. So let's start with that. Define record type. I need to figure out which library this is in. So Guile define record type. I think it's in one of the Surfies. I think it's Surfy 9 records. Yeah. So we'll go back up here and we will add, we'll add Surfy 9. That will give us record types. And then, let's see. Back in, already here. Back here, we were saying define record type. Let me actually just double check the syntax on this to make sure I get it right. Okay, define record type, package, and make package, I believe. This is constructor next, the predicate next. Now, the constructor, I think I need to have the field names as well. So make package, ID, name, URL. We don't need everything. So maybe ID and name is good enough for now. ID, name, and source, potentially. Source being where the package is being pulled from, let's say. And then, yeah, that's good. So then we have package question mark for the predicate. And then we have the individual fields. So ID would be package ID and package set package ID, which we don't really want that, actually. We want it to stay the same. So we'll just make these all read-only for now. We don't need setters. I don't think we need setters because we're just going to create them. Source, package, source. But that's easy to change later. Okay. Let me just line these up so that my OCD doesn't yell at me. I'm not really OCD, but let's just assume that I am for the sake of entertainment. Define a record type. What else would we want here? I mean, we really only just need packages for now. So we can just start with that. And then we can just hard code a basic package listing. So here's what we'll do. Define package index. And we're going to run a map with a lambda I. We're going to say make package I. And then the name is going to be format nil. Sorry. Getting all screwed up here. Package. Is this going to be terrible? It's fine. We're just getting test data in here. Package A for I. And then the source, we're just going to say ELPA. I don't really care. And then we're just going to say, what is it called? Guile range. Is it, there's something like that. IOTA. Return a list containing count numbers from start and adding step each time. So in Surfy 1, let's add that one too. Come on. Surfy 1. All right. Functional programming, y'all. IOTA. And what was the parameter for that? We're just going to give them 20. How about that? 20. Cool. So what we're doing here is we are using map to loop over a list that we're creating. We're generating it using this IOTA procedure. We're giving it 20 as a parameter. It's going to give us numbers 0 to 19, which is fine. I don't really care that there's a 0 in there. And then for each of those items in that list that gets generated, it's going to call this Lambda procedure with the value passed in. We're going to make a package with that. It's going to give it a bake package name, and we're just going to have something we can display on the page. Okay. So then we can go to our packages index page and do a similar thing with render page. Instead of having just plain old package listing, we could say render page title package listing. For now, we'll just call it that. Fine. Body. And then we can have a little backtick H1 packages. And then let's see, does it take any number of things as content? I guess we'll find out, won't we? I want to splice in a map. Okay. So Lambda package. And then for this, we're going to generate Well, probably an unordered list would be fine, but for now we're just gonna put just regular plain text, or maybe like an H3. How about an H3? So H3, and that's gonna be package name, package. I need to do a unquote here. Okay, so that's that. That may work just for now to get it started. Let's just take a look, see what happens. Could also crash and burn horribly. That's also fine. It's not gonna make me cry. Not yet. Okay, package detail 4. Oh, that's the wrong. Okay, good. Match error with match. No matching pattern fave icon. Who cares? I need to add a catch-all though. So here, let's do an underscore. Oof. Did I screw something up? No, I think it's good. There we go. Give me 1 second. So, all right, let's start it again. And then I'm gonna reload the page. Something came out. Wrong number of arguments to procedure map. So I got something wrong in the map that we are doing right here. Okay, I forgot the list. So package index, I believe, is the one that I'm looking for. There we go. And I'm gonna reload the page. Oh, there it is. So we got packages 0 to 19. So we're doing some basic templating here, which is great. Now we can go even further and try to make links to the individual package pages. Which won't be hard. But what I'm thinking about right now is that we don't have a way to sort of easily randomly index the package list. We do. I mean, I could do something for that, but it's kind of dirty. Let's see. Probably I need to break some of this stuff out into individual procedures as well, because I feel like it's getting, we're going to get a little bit too nested in here, and it's going to start looking ugly pretty soon. But that's sort of the beauty of it. I mean, since we're doing all the templating directly in Scheme using SXML, we can break apart all aspects of templating an individual page into components, almost like you would do with something like React.js. And you don't really have to pay a penalty for it because it's just part of the normal language. There's no weird syntax, aside from just what you might consider weird in terms of SXML. But it's kind of nice to be able to just use normal code and not have to do any kind of strange, overly complicated incantations to put together templating for a given page. So we'll get to that in a minute, but I think for now, let's just get something started for linking to pages and then showing individual pages for package details. So we got the package name here. I think we can throw an A around this. And here's the first place where we're gonna need to use an attribute. So we're gonna do the ref, and then we're gonna need the URL, the URL for the page. So we're gonna format that. I'll have to splice that in. False on this. /packages /tilde for the ID. Probably need a procedure for generating that as well so that it's not too complicated, or let's say, well, so there's not unnecessary overhead. And then package ID for package. We need some line breaks because this is starting to look ugly. Let's do that. All right. So that should give us an href around the H3. I need to close that off though. Is that right? That's still wrong. Okay, there we go. Let's drop that. That should at least allow us to link to the pages. Now the pages won't work correctly yet, but at least we can link to them. Okay, so restart. Yuck, what happened? Those H3s really got messed up. All right, let me invert this because I think what I need to do is put the href around the package name string here instead. I wish I could convolute this expression, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that magic right now. So That's fine. So we're going to do the H3, and then we're going to paste in the ahref goodness. Did I do that right in the end? Yeah, let's just do it this way. Okay. So package ID, package name. I think we're covered here because we got the A inside of the H3. There we go. Feel free to ask questions too if what I'm doing doesn't make sense at any given point. All right, so something crashed there. Bad attribute, a package 0. I didn't close this off correctly. I wonder how behind the stream is. All right, so we'll go back and run it again. Something else is still crashing. Wrong number of arguments to procedure map. I think I screwed up passing this in. Yep, I did that right there. There we go. Now it's looking right, and it's linking to the correct package pages for each of them. But if I click one, it tells me package detail for 2. Okay, so we are linking between now, which is great. And that's the basis for actually having a package listing using some sort of hacked up example information that doesn't really matter. Do I want to drop this down? Cal says H1 packages. Are you saying for using SXML to string? I don't know. I don't think so. It should have worked without that. Let me go back into the REPL and see. So if I do, no. For some reason, it's stripping the tags out, which makes absolutely no sense to me because the whole point of using this thing is to have the tags be in. So what the hell is happening? But maybe that's not what you're talking about. You'll have to tell me. Okay. So I'll take this gotta request thing out for now. We might need to add some debug procedures to write out debug information for anything we need to see that we don't really want to see all the time, or maybe write to a log file. But that's some good fun for later, I believe. Some of the more polished aspects of writing a program, right? Not just, you know, hacking shit together and hoping it works. Okay. So to do the packages detail page, we'll go ahead and drop in render page title. And we'll format this to say, let's see, so the A package details. I don't know if this is the right way to do titling for the pages. Cal says, asking if maybe you should close H1 and packages in a single list and then splice packages after that. I don't know. Oh, yes. Cal, you're right. I think I screwed that up. You're 100% right. I'm not sure if that's going to work correctly. In the output. I think that's going to fail because we're splicing in body, and it would have to be spliced in expecting a list. I would have to do a little bit of magic to get around that. But maybe if I just wrap this all in a div, let's say. So div, yeah, probably I just need to do it that way, right? Fine, whatever. Thanks for pointing that out though, Cal, because you were absolutely right. All right, so for package detail, we got the title, we got the body now. For this, we will also have to do a div, I believe. So we got a div h1. And here we're just gonna pull, oh, I also need to add package. Should I put this in a let? So let name, package name. Ooh, I also have to index the package based on the ID, so... trying to remember the right scheme procedure for this. Guile Surfy list. Not association lists. Surfy one has some of this stuff, I think. So selectors. Not... Which one is the one for indexing correctly? Because, okay, so Guile scheme index list. I don't need to do an envelope in a div, but it changes the way that I structure the code, so I don't want to have to do that. Oh, list ref. Okay. Return the kth element from the list. List ref, which is list first. Yeah, list is first, so package index. I probably need to have some procedures. So we're getting into abstraction already because I'm doing exactly what I said I shouldn't do, which is hard coding things in. That's okay though. List ref, package index, ID. I think I probably need to hold on to that package though. So we're going to do a let star in this and say package, well, list ref. Why did I not just rewrite the same thing? I don't know, but don't question me, okay? Just let me do my job here, all right? Just kidding. Package. So we got the package name. Probably don't even need to store it now because we've got it right at hand, but I'm going to do it anyway. Package details, name, because we're going to use it twice, okay? Name. And let's just go with that for now. I know that I don't need a div for this one yet, but I will need one because I'm going to have more content to put here. So we'll just leave that for now. I could probably say something more here though. So format F details for. And that might be good enough. If it doesn't crash. Jump back over here. Packages. We're going to say package 2. And we got a crash. Expecting exact integer 2. And that is, excuse me, at list ref. I think I must have missed something here. That's the only one. Oh, it needs to be converted to an integer. So that's string to number. There it is, details for package 2. So we did actually do that successfully. And we're obviously going to run into problems if we say 200 because there's no item 200. So I'm going to have to do some balance checking, at least for now. I probably should just stop screwing around and do the right thing. Define package by ID. I don't know if that's the right way to name this, but whatever. And then we'll say if list, is it length? I should know the answer to this question, shouldn't I? Length of package index. Or let's say if less than ID, length of package index, then list ref, package index, packager index, ID. Otherwise, return false. Okay? All good. We also need to make sure that there's a package being returned before we try to call package name on it. So we may need a separate step here and not just blindly do the dirty hack. But that's okay for now. It's not great. If package I'm questioning my motives here, or my strategy, let's say. So if package Then we want to I'm trying to avoid having to call values twice. I guess I could just do it in this part, okay? So we're gonna return something anyway. But then again, we don't want it to be text HTML outcome. If it's a 404, okay? Let's do this. I'm gonna copy this 404. Yeah, there was probably a more efficient way to jump back here. All right, that's gonna be a 404. And then if package values, all right, cool, that's all good. So we got package detail, we got package by ID. I should change this to package by ID. Okay, then we have that. Now that should give us package if we actually find it. Probably wasn't really that important to do bounds checking right now, but why not? Okay. I feel like I must have missed something somewhere else though. Let me check this. Okay, that does seem right. 200 is not found, though 19 should be found, and 20 will not be found. Okay, cool. Good, so that's kind of a basic. That's a basic MVC style website, let's say. For representing the basic package listing starting from a record type that we define for packages. Super simple stuff so far. Really not that interesting, but it does show what it might look like to write a basic website with Guile scheme directly with the stuff that's basically built in. Since we've got 15 minutes left, I'm trying to think if there's anything else we can do that would be marginally interesting to do at the moment. I have an idea. It might be a little bit out of scope. Maybe we should do that another time. I'm thinking about making a CSS file generator, almost like SXML, but for CSS. Now that's probably going to be a little bit problematic for various reasons because CSS has some funky syntax to have to translate into. But as you can see, I unplugged my headphones. But I think it would be interesting and useful to have such a thing so that you don't have to actually have a handwritten CSS file. On the other hand, it is nice sometimes to have a handwritten CSS file that is easy to just tweak and reload things in a browser without having to recompile it. So I don't know. It's one of those things where, hey, it'd be fun to write that, but maybe it's not such a good idea to do it. So I guess to round things out, we can just sort of put some links on the index page or a link on the index page and some information on the index page to show the, to point to the other page, at least the one page we have so far, which is the packages index. So we have this. And let's put this in a div also. Obviously, we need to have a div for this. And let's see, what would we have for this? A P, maybe? A paragraph? So, you can find Emacs packages across a variety of package repositories, Elpa, Melpa, etc. And share which packages you use. Well, let's say share which packages you use in your configuration and contribute tips to help other people to help other people learn new packages. Okay, let's just leave it at that for now. Now, after the P, we'll have an H3, let's say, for the package listing. So we can do another thing here where we say a ref. We don't need anything special here because we're just going to link straight to the packages listing. And this is, you know, this syntax is a little bit gross for having a link in the page, but honestly, we could just simplify that if we wanted to by making a procedure like link, and then give it the link in the title, and have that be, have it generate the appropriate SXML output, but we won't do that yet. So href, which would be packages, and then we need the text, so package listing. There we go. Maybe we also want to say this to check. I know that looks ridiculous, but I think that's the right way to do that. Okay, so let's get back into our terminal. Let's restart the app and then go to our index page, and hopefully it will show it up the right way. Okay, cool. So yeah, we have the information, then click check the package listing, and then it gives us a list of packages. So that's a really, really basic website that will give you a view into some in-memory information. Obviously, we need to add styling for the page. We need to add the ability to create new items. We could do that with just the in-memory stuff, which is not really a big deal, but I think it's probably better to get to using the database sooner rather than later. So maybe in the next stream, which will probably be next Monday, we'll start trying to come up with the actual database with a SQLite database and write some basic CRUD operations, create, read, update, delete operations on the database, so we have a real working implementation of adding new packages to the index, and then we can start adding some more useful behavior after that. So I think it's a pretty good, result for the end of the first stream in the new format. I'm gonna commit this code, which probably I should just go ahead and do that now since we have a few minutes. To remind you, we do have a repo up at Codeberg. It's codeberg.org/systemcrafter/emacspackages.com. And there's nothing there. So we're going to go and commit that right now, actually. Let me see if I can just pull up VC. And we have the manifest. We have everything here. Yeah, we kind of just want to add it all. So let's just hit add on these. Or was it V? V? And V, and control, oh no, it's control XPV, right? No. Wrong. Sometimes I don't get it right with the VC mode stuff. It's just, oh, but the thing doesn't work there, does it? Because it's only on one file. MetaQ. Must be something else. Sorry, control XVV, right? No? That must be it. Okay, let's give it a shot. Initial commit with basic prototype. It's not even a prototype. Basic HTTP server, let's say. All right, cool. That did actually work. So we got it there. I'm going to use capital P to push. Cannot read username for... Oh, okay, so I need to check change the remote. I don't know how to do that in VC mode, so I'm just going to do it here. So get remote set URL origin get at codeberg.org/systemcrafters/emacs inexpackages.com.get. All right. Go back into vcdir, push, put in a passphrase, and bam, should be up there now. Okay, so we've got basically the you want me to wrap the line? Okay, cool, thanks. So we've got the inexpackages.com code up here with sort of the stuff we put in the README and the source file itself for what we wrote today. So you can go to the repo to check that out. Go give it a star, you know, watch the repo if you want to. But we'll be hacking more on this stuff next week, which will be pretty fun. And then we'll start, you know, adding some more functionality based on what we're interested to look at, or what we're interested to see implemented. I think database will be next, like I said. Get some basic CRUD functionality working, and then we'll take it from there. So I'll go ahead and end the stream here, but let me know if you liked it. I had fun. I thought it was pretty fun to hack on something new. I'm looking forward to getting more into the weeds of implementing this site, because I've only done surface level Guile web development up until now. Just, you know, hacking projects together here and there, but I would like to do real work to really understand what Guile is capable of for web application development, and also where the gaps are, because it might be cool to write some interesting libraries to help flesh out the Guile ecosystem in various ways. I don't really have any ideas necessarily yet what that would be, but we'll figure it out as we go, because we'll see, you know, what things are needed. So if you're watching the video recording of this, let me know in the comments what you think. Give a thumbs up if you like it. Share it with other people. And definitely let me know if you want to see more Guile web application or just general application development content in the future, because I'll be happy to make some more. So yeah, that's it. Thank you all for being here today. Appreciate your time and attention as always, and happy hacking. See you next time.